try it. But first I'll bore you with a couple small slides because I just want to talk about the general approach here that I'm trying to take. Let's see, I moved some windows around and now it's not working. So let me pop up a couple slides. I swear it's only 5 slides.
Did I miss a lot?
They're appearing in the wrong place, so I have to share a different. Yep, I'm going to try to do it this way. There we go. All right. So has anyone seen this show? It's called Impossible Builds. It shows up on Hulu and shows up for me because I like watching weird documentaries that bore the heck out of my wife. But anyway, this show is basically about a bunch of folks in Scotland and England and stuff that want to build houses in just crazy places, you know, way off the grid with awesome views like this one right here. And so they've worked with manufactured housing companies to like have their homes built in a factory and then, you know, assembled on site and stuff, and just crazy places, you know, way off the grid. So like at the factory, they do all the framing, they do the sub-assembly of the components and make sure that like the kitchen component has all of the proper plumbing and appliances and things like that. And then they package it all up and they ship it off to this remote location with a couple of cranes there. And then they put it all together. And then eventually they do some fit and finish work, you know, to make it all look remote nice location. And they come up with some really spectacular, and then they put it all together that are honestly supposed to be better than, you know, stick built homes in the end, you know, in terms of like their structure. So anyway, this kind of method that I've kind of pulled together from watching a lot of videos and tutorials and things like that kind of resembles that in a bit. So in React, really, we tend to build things in components and stitch those components together with parents, components and containers, right? And then, you know, eventually we pull all that into an application and we style it. So it does kind of mimic that, you know, build in the factory, assemble on site, and then do the fit and finish in the end, right? So what we want to do today is kind of mimic that. So here in the factory metaphor, what we're going to do is take apart this to-do list app and effectively, you know, build out a bunch of small components that might be pulled together into that. Then we're going to scaffold those components together, and then we're going to stitch the behavior together so it all works in one piece, theoretically, right? So we'll see, because I'm not a great React developer, but hopefully there's one or two online here with us. So in the factory metaphor, right, we're going to take these components, we're going to frame them up, right? We're going to add a little behavior to them. We're going to write really small unit tests that rely on mocks and spies to make sure those components are working well. Then we're going to do the assembly. And in this case, we'll take, you know, like the container components, and we'll start to pack in these subcomponents, the children. And then we'll actually add some, you know, plumbing and wiring to make sure those components are talking to each other well, right? And that parent component can kind of maintain the conversation, if you will, between its child components. And so those are kind of like high-level integration tests and, you know, functional tests for the larger set of components. And then lastly, final assembly. I don't think we're going to do a lot of this tonight, but you know, the siding, painting, and landscaping aspects of working with CSS to move components around on the screen to make sure they look nice together, things like that. We won't do a lot of that, but one thing I think we can do with this method, though, is avoid, you know, brittle tests that are impacted by CSS changes with this method. And then also, you know, just quick note, you know, software, of course, is much more malleable than a house. So we can actually do things like take the kitchen and move it to the other side of the house in, you know, this metaphor of software, right? And we don't want that to impact tests either. So if I decide I want to move like the entry form for a to-do over to the side instead of on top of the list of to-dos, right? I don't want my tests to break because I did that. So that's one of the goals that we're going to have here too. All right. And then one more slide to bore you with. So the React testing library is kind of new to the scene. Maybe it's been around a few years, but it's kind of taken over for an old framework called Enzyme that used to be, you know, very much rooted in the component nature, right? You actually went in and inspected the components. The React testing library takes a more user-centric approach to testing. And what Kent suggests is the more your tests resemble the way your software is used, the more confidence they can give you. So this library contains tools that really allow you to kind of exercise the DOM that's generated from a React application and interact with it like a user would. Like a user would look at the screen and look for a button with a certain piece of text in it, you know, to understand that's where I submit, right? Or they might, you know, if, say for instance, they entered a to-do, they would expect their text to appear somewhere else on screen. So we'll be using those sorts of tests in the course of doing especially our integrated tests. So that's about it for the slides. And with that, maybe it's time to try a little coding out here. Okay. So one of the things that's kind of cool with React and even Angular has a lot of this too. You can generate some applications pretty easily to get a lot of your boilerplate out of the way and get some default configurations. So I've used the React create app to generate this application. So it's got a lot of things that might look familiar to other people because it seems like everybody's using this one. Secondarily, I found another nice component with NPM that allows me to generate React components, much like you would with Angular's CLI. And so I've used that to actually generate some boilerplate for these components here. And it'll give us a quick start, you know, rather than watch me, because I type at like 26 words a minute, rather than watch me, you know, labor through generating, you know, some boilerplate React. I've spared you that and generated the baseline tests and the baseline components for this application. And I think I might have a wireframe here. Let me see if I can view it. This is what we're kind of shooting for here. Real simple. We just want this little app. It's got a title up here. It's got a little form here for adding an item. And then what we want to do is when we add those items, we'll do, you know, just display them on screen. Stretch target, probably won't get to this tonight, is something like this, where we would add a couple features to our to-do list line items so that you can mark one as completed or delete one from your list. Like I said, though, we'll probably stop at wireframe 2 if we get that far. Let's see, this thing is exactly in the way for me here. So how do I move that? I don't know if you guys can see it, but my sharing stuff is in the way of the screen up here. You know how to move that?
We can't see it. Sometimes there's like a little pin icon and you can unpin it.
Okay. All right, I'm going to try to live with it. Well, if I can. Actually, I can't because I can't see my tabs.
We'll do a quick 20-second PR break. Welcome to Canton Coders while Scott fixes his computer and focuses on that. Next week, we're going to have Brian Finster talk about continuous deployment in the modern age as he works with some of the leading industries. Then following that, we'll be running more code the following Tuesday with resorting to sorting, where Aaron, don't share your bad joke.
Okay.
Did we kill enough time?
Can I share a different one?
I think we killed enough time.
Okay.
Okay, 20 seconds was enough to do that. And I found it, hide floating meeting controls. Okay, boom, now we're there. Okay, so I'm gonna close these little wireframes here to get back to the code. Generally, I think there's a couple ways to approach it. Maybe going down toward the simple. I could start with to-do list entry. Let's do that since it's the one that's up. Here I've got some test placeholders here, right? So in Jest, if you use the keyword test, of course, that identifies a test. I found out really interestingly, so you can put the letter X in front of it, X test, and it ignores a test. And so that allowed me to create, some, goal tests, kind of like working off of a to-do list, honestly, when I'm doing test-driven development. And so that's how I did it in this one. So in order to implement this test, the first one we want to try is render a text input field. So as we can see, our component right now just renders a div with some text in it. So we're going to write a test that says, I want to find a text input field in here, right? So I'm just gonna open that up there. With testing library, when we render something, it'll create a screen object that gives us access to the DOM. So much like this particular test, it should mount, right? The render object will give us access to the screen object where we can do searches of the DOM to find items within the DOM. And quite a bit of different query methods for helping us find it. In this case, it's using test ID, data-test ID equals to-do list entry as a way to find this. You can also search by class names, CSS type things. That can make your tests a little bit brittle if they're too tightly coupled to the look and feel. You can also use the roles for accessibility, which is an interesting thing. And I'm going to try to use that tonight, for that sort of testing. That tends to be much less brittle than others. So we're going to render our component here. You can see my typing speed, right? To-do list entry, right? And then I'm just going to write a simple query here. Text input. And I'm going to query screen. Get by role. There it is. Role. And there's a role called text box that matches text inputs. So we're going to search for that. And then next thing we'll do is we're going to write our assertion here, expect text input to be in the document. There it is, right on top. To be in the document. Boom, there's our test. I can run my test down here, npm test. And because I have auto save on, it'll run my tests every time it saves a new copy. So here, nothing is.
But you have to get rid of X in front of test.
Thank you. Is that Camille?
That's Camille.
Excellent. Joel warned me that you're going to be incredibly helpful tonight. So
I know nothing about React.
Yeah.
Camille, that will be 3 story points, and Camille for finding keep
3
track
story
tonight.
points.
We're trying to pay for the
Excellent.
next PI planning.
Okay, so
It's
here
just,
that picked up.
I've made similar mistakes with my tests many a time. Of why isn't this running? Well, because you have it tuned so
You told
it's
it not to.
out.
Bingo. Oh, wrong game. Sorry.
Okay, let me create some space here, and I want to be able to inspect this input, this test result a little bit. So here, of course, we have one failure. It's the test I expected to fail, and it's basically telling me there are no accessible roles in the document for me to find, right? So it's failing for the reason I expected to. All right, so I'm going to come over here to my production code, and I'm going to enter, oops, get rid of that. I'm going to put an input here and type, I don't want that, text. I think I need a closing thing here, and let's see what happened. Oh, it continues to fail. So what's happened here? Unable to find an accessible element with.
Because the text box, you don't have the type text box, right? It's you have type text, so they're two different.
Yeah, but I think what's happened is it's not saving for some reason. So I can see it's rendering the old stuff.
Do we need a
Did I
20-second
change the
commercial
right-
break?
Did I change the right file? Hold on. Let me see. I did not. Okay, well, that's going to cause the problem every time, right?
That is a 2-story point fine from Scott.
Okay, I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to find my, let's move that. There it is, to do this entry. All right. All right. The problem was between the keyboard and the chair here. And let's see if that passes our test. Okay, there we go. So now we got a passing test. Good. All right. Next thing we want to do as a test, we want to put a submit button in here. So let's pull down another test here, get it ready to go. Astutely, I'm going to do this first. And we're going to get some weirdness with our test explorer down there, just because we're going to be in a random state here for a bit. I'm going to sin and do some cut and paste here, because I know this will work for me. This time I'm going to look for the button. So const submit button equals screen get by role. Button. Oh, and I can do some other stuff here. I can like say that I want the name or the text on the button to be equal to, let's say, new item or add item. How's that sound? And I want to make it case insensitive here. So it's really just using a regex to check the button text and make sure that I've got the right thing there. Because a button with no text on it doesn't help us out too much, and it helps us to distinguish, other buttons. I need an assertion here before I move on. So expect submit button to be in the document. There it is. All right. Test is failing. And if we look up here, it's basically saying there's only one accessible role out here. This is the nice thing about get by role. If you make a mistake, it'll tell you what roles are available in this component. So if I called it the wrong thing, it would find or show me in the DOM what roles are out there, which is a really helpful thing. So we promised a button. So here we go. We're going to make it type submit. And I think we're still going to fail because we don't have the name there. Should fail for that. Found the button. There it is, the add item thing. Okay. And let's see if that passes it. Value must be
Get all by role gives you more than one. It gives you an array of the buttons.
Good
I think
call.
you should use get by role if you want just one button.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, I make that mistake often. Usually in the opposite, where I'm looking for a list of something and I use get by role and I don't get the items I'm looking for. Good catch. See, this is why mobbing is really cool, because the peanut gallery can help me fix my problems. All right. So we've got a component that has those two items. So we're going to do a couple other things here. Let's say that it doesn't make sense to be able to submit if I don't have any text to submit. So we're actually going to disable that button here when we have no text in there, which is kind of like the default state. But let's say here, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this. I need that. And then I think because I don't have any data, I should be able to just simply expect submit button to be disabled. So you can see a pretty cool variety of assertions and search methods that are available here. Okay, whoa. Now that passed.
No, it didn't. You
Oh.
didn't take the X off.
Thank you. Thank you. There we go.
Hey, Scott, we got some questions coming in, so let me know if there's a pause.
Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead and take it before we implement this one.
Okay.
I have a question about the putting the X in front. What happens if you just use pound or your typical commenter?
So that'll probably work too. So I think I can use like / and just use text here as well. That would be suitable, right?
You'd have to comment out the entire test in that case, right? Not just the, right, you can't just add the X in that case.
Is there a definition that
Right.
shows why the X does that?
It's a
Yeah, it's just another function actually that's made available within the testing library.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So the disadvantage of using this X test method is that I have to have, you know, a dummy function in here in order to use it. I got started doing that with Angular using a very similar concept, but in Angular, they don't force you to have this dummy function. You can just have the text in there and then you're ready to go. Okay, so let's implement this thing. So one of the things this is going to force us to do is to have a little bit of state in the in our component. So we're going to use a state hook to help out with that. So const, let's call it new item, and then set new item as our setter equals use state. Give a default value of nothing. That's also going to force me to do something else here. So I got to make this a function. Pardon me for as I clean this up here. Because it was a simple component before this, all it had to do was render. Move that up there. All right.
I think you can also use Alt up arrow, is it? Or Alt Shift up arrow to move lines around like that.
Oh my gosh, that's very helpful. Here I need a return statement.
There's a
We're gonna do
question from
that.
Needy. I think that's how you pronounce your name. Sorry if I mangled it. At what point do we need to refactor or remove duplication in test and code?
That's a great question.
Well, the easy answer is when all your tests are green is the best time to do it. Because then you don't accidentally change behavior, hopefully, right? Yeah, it's to me, it's like whenever the code starts looking uncomfortable, right? And sometimes that happens more often than not. I think based on my level of ability with React, I probably am more tolerant of bad code for a while, you know, as I'm learning. And then I got to add another import here. But some other languages like Java is probably my first language. I'm a little bit more anal about it, I suppose is a good term. And so I'll do refactors a lot more. All right, now we're compiling again. I've got state of new item. I only want to do here is disabled equals, and this is kind of a weird little thing here. So if disabled is true, then we want to disable the button. So we have to actually have the not of new item in order to actually disable it. I think that'll get us to a passing state. All right, so we're not really doing much with this state other than just controlling this. So with the next next test, we're gonna set it up so that when we actually add text into the text input, it's gonna re-enable this button. Okay. All right. So let's get started on that test. Yeah, go ahead.
If this new item is just setting true or false, then why not just set the default value as false instead of empty strings?
So new item's actually going to contain a string. It's meant to contain a string, but the kind of interesting, maybe weird thing about JavaScript is that I can use like an empty string as a representation of false. And so I'm taking advantage of that weirdness in the language to allow me to do that. So I could also do something like that length. Oops, got to spell that right. Length equals 0, and it should work for that too. So I'm taking a little bit of a JavaScript shortcut with that. Oh, did it not work for that?
You don't want the not there, will you? If you're gonna,
Oh, you want the not
Oh yeah,
not-
yeah.
equals
yeah.
equals.
there we go.
Very good. Yeah,
Oh, okay, got it.
good catch. All right, thank you again to the mob. All right, so let's start on this next test. Again, I'm going to grab these two things here because I know I'm going to have to do something with it. Then I'm going to reach up here, do some more cut and paste. I'm going to grab my text input here and roll down here. And this time, I think what I'm going to do is fire a user event dot type into text input. I want to put the words, let's say, mow my lawn. This should, maybe it should be somebody else's to-do list, honestly, right? Kind of like a honey-do list. All right. And I expect that submit button to be enabled this time, right? And this will surely fail. Oop, it won't fail unless I do this. Enable the submit button when text is present. Okay, that's the right test. Failing for the right reason. The element is not enabled. Okay. Now here we got to mess around with this state. So we're actually going to have to store the state here using this set new item function in order to get this to work. And so I think it's on change is the event. I want to call with the event, and I want to call set new item and I want to pass the value of this, which I think I can find in e.target dot value if I'm right. There it is. Apologize if you can't see that. The increased font size kind of what it can do probably is just kind of reformat these a little bit.
In these scenarios, you can click that Explorer button in the top left corner and it will temper top left corner way over. Yep.
Yeah.
No, not that one. The button next to it, to the left of it. The
This?
file. Yeah, click that. Now you just
good
opened
idea.
up. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're
I've got them
welcome.
all open up here already. So, well, this video.
And you can toggle it back and forth. So if you need it, yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Did that actually fix our test? It did. Okay, cool. All right. So now just to kind of recap what we've got so far, right? We've got an input text box, right? Accepts input, right? We've got a submit button that is enabled or disabled based on the presence of text in that button, right? And we haven't instantiated this thing in a browser at all so far. We've found out all these things just by writing tests. So it'll be miraculous when we stitch it all together and open the browser for the first time and hopefully see everything working if we do it right? So we just do a little quick cleanup here. I'm going to move those in a little bit. Delete a space here or a line. Oops. I got some untitled poll here. All right.
I'm sorry, Scott. Just ignore that. That's for everyone else.
How should I answer it?
Whatever you want, Scott.
All right.
I thought this was a React app you were showing.
All right. I think, okay, I'm all back where I need to be here. All right. Things are looking pretty good now. Okay, here's where, oops. I'm using one of those magic mice, and every once in a while I kind of brush the side of it and everything just scrambles on me. So here, what we're going to do is work on this test. So in this one, what I want to do is pass a callback function into this component. And now what I want to do is when I submit this, I want it to make a call to the callback function. So the goal here is I want to pass this value back to a parent and let the parent do whatever it wants with it. Likely going to persist it, and then likely also going to pass it to another component, right? So that's our goal with this test here. We're going to try to make that callback function, and this is where we're going to use a spy on that. Boy, that's a wordy little thing there. All right, apologize for that. Don't know how to fix it. Okay, so let me just create a little bit more space here. We'll do some of that. Again, I'm going to render this guy. I'm going to need my, let's see. I'm going to need all this stuff here. Yep. Let's pull that down. Okay. All right. And I think I want another user event. And I want to click on this mouse here, or click on this button. Submit button. I think that's all I need on that. All right. And then I expect my callback function. So let's create the callback function. I need to do that above render.
Hey, Scott, I have a question for you passed on from Nidhi.
Sure.
She was asking about the new item value binding. So she said, we did not bind the new item value to the property of input box. Will the value not change visually for the user?
That's a good question. I suspect maybe the way we have it written, it might not make a difference, but one thing I like to do on a submit is maybe even clear that box. I think we would find a problem there. I like the idea of binding it though. Let me finish this test and then we can go back and add that, if you will.
But if I can jump in, are you not binding, right? The on change, the set new item. So as the user enters the input, the set new item is actually taking the e-target value. So that's where we are binding, no? That's the question. So line 9.
Actually, we
I'm-
don't have a value property in the input box where we will write a value equal to new item
Yeah,
so that
right,
when we change
right,
it,
right.
the
I
user
see.
will see.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's a little bit going on here because technically that input should probably update when we change new item, right? By calling that set new item thing. So even though the text is already in the input box at that time, it makes sense to actually close the loop on that. So we'll close the loop. Our tests we're passing. Right now we're working on a failing test. Once we get that to green, then we'll go back and we'll add that capability.
How about after you're done defining the constants and things, Scott, maybe we can step through the test manually instead of letting it retest every time you save. That might explain it closer, maybe.
Gotcha. Let's see here.
So we can-
Where was I at?
We'll let
Oh.
Scott get his pointer back on his brain pointer back here.
Callback. We're going to call just.fn here. It's function. So that's our spy there. We need to pass this in. So we've got to figure out a way to do that. So let's say on new item equals callback. All right.
Do you need to explain to folks how spies are different from other kinds of test doubles?
I could, or somebody could do it on my behalf. As I finish writing this, let me get this expect in here first.
Camille, do you want to explain it?
No, I'll let the presenter explain it. But you do need to take the X off a test.
If there's one thing I've learned tonight, is to take the X off of your tests to make them work.
Okay, here we go. Hopefully this is a failing test.
I knew
it's
Camille was
failed.
going to say that.
Okay. All right. This is good. It's failing for the right reason. So the spy. So really there's kind of, if you read Fowler, there's basically like 5 different types of test doubles. There's like a fake, which is something that can kind of stand in, but also kind of contains a little maybe mock or even real business logic within it. And I've used that extensively in another job where we were writing a mobile app that worked against a set of services, right? And it was very difficult to induce all the different errors that we could, get out of a service layer for our functional tests. So we wrote a fake that we could configure and tell it to operate in a different way when we called just before our functional test. And then you also have kind of like 4 other levels of test doubles. So you have simple stubs, right? Well, even before that, I think you have dummies, right? So these are basically just stand-ins for a dependency that's not used in a test. A stub is a little level above that, where you've got a stand-in that's expected to, provide some value of some sort in your test. Then you've got mocks and spies. And mocks, I believe you can use a mock to like test interactions with that particular stand-in. And with spies, not only can you test interactions, but I think you can test some of the, like say, parameters passed in those interactions and such. How'd I do? Do all right on that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
You've regained 1 story point.
Yeah,
I got one back.
You
All
went
right.
more levels than I usually go.
You're negative 462 still.
The cool thing is when you use these sorts of stand-ins. Oh, here's another poll for me. I'm gonna just delete it. It's not fair. They're probably cheating if I did that.
I was just sharing
Um,
results of our poll.
Oh, you were sharing it. I'm sorry. Okay. You want a moment to do that?
No, I didn't realize it would interrupt you.
We're,
Sorry.
we're experimenting, Scott. So we do apologize. We'll give you one more story point. Thank you.
It gave me a chance to take a sip of beer, so it's okay. All right, I'm gonna close it now. I don't know. You guys can see that, right? It's hovered over.
Nope, I
Oh.
just see your screen.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
just it's all hidden. I just see.
Okay. Zoom is doing some interesting stuff there. All right. So in this case, where were we? We're talking about mocks and spies, I think. Well, I guess you know what some
We're
people will
adding a
tell us to
spy.
do. You use the lowest common denominator on those doubles whenever you get a chance to. Mocks and spies can be a bit more expensive to use, and maybe slower running than a simple dummy or test double. I mean a stub. And so take the time to write your stubs if you don't need them to do too much. All right. Again, we've got a failing test, so now we're going to make this pass. All right. How do I do that? Let me take a look over here.
Are we sending that on new item prop to that to-do list entry?
There it is. I'm trying to crack the code to make my window bigger there. Okay, and let's see. Okay, yeah, so we need to pass in our new callback function. We called that on new item. So now we're passing that in to our component, and hopefully that's available to us. On submit, I need to call that thing, right? On submit, I want to call, let's see here. I think let me just try it directly. This is where my neophyte status in this becomes really apparent. On new item, it's probably the trickiest part of the whole thing tonight. On new item, and I want to pass in the value that's stored in new item.
I think that line 10, I would give an arrow function if you want to invoke it. I don't think it will work.
Arrow function, like up here.
Yeah, arrow function, parentheses and then the arrow. Yeah, then it will. Then you are invoking the function with the parameters.
Do I need new item here? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's probably not required because it's coming as a prop. Sorry, new item. Where is the new item coming? That parameter. Where is it? The new item.
Yeah, new item should be part of this state
okay,
here.
then I think it's probably, yeah, it has access, so it wouldn't give error. Yeah. The previous one would give a like a loop because you're invoking directly, so it as soon as you load render, it will keep executing. Now this seems to be fine.
Breaking up a little bit for me there, but let's see here. Let me double check my test. Yeah, it's failing for that reason. On new item. I'm tempted to add that value thing here, but I don't think that will actually impact this. It's probably worth a try though. Oops. Still failed. All right.
On click, right? So yeah, probably that's going to be on click.
Did you just recommend we use WinForms?
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, good call on that. The two things together, right? That the value of the mob showing itself, right? Yeah, ideally I should probably wrap those two elements in a form and call
Yes.
submit from the form, right?
Yep.
But you know, I'm more of a back end guy, so how would I know that?
Yeah, the form element itself has an on submit
Right.
with a lowercase s. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
One question though.
Sure.
So that new item that you're bringing in on 4, because I'm more on the Angular side, is that how you take in inputs in React?
This thing up here.
Yeah, the on new item on line 4. You're on line 5, but
Oh,
you
okay,
need that-
gotcha.
Yeah, that on new item right there. Is that
Yeah,
how you do?
that's a way to pass in like properties into a React component, so you can put your custom stuff in there.
Okay, so it's analogous to add input in Angular, I think.
Yeah, and I think I can also pass in values there as well.
Nice.
Function references or values in that same way. It's done a little different. So React has a couple of different ways of, at least 2, probably 3 or 4 ways of creating components. This one is the functional method. You know, the Java person in me likes to use the class method more often. But unfortunately, this thing generated functional components for me. So I'm trying to live with those right now. And it's a good learning experiment for me too, to mess around with that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I guess I won't always be maintaining my own code. I got to look at other people's code too. All right. So now it looks like we've reached most of our test goals here. There's probably a couple other things we could do with this, but I like the fact that we've got a few passing tests. Maybe it's time to move on to one of these other components, start to stitch that up if we want to finish this, right? So I'm going to move this thing again. My gosh, it's got like 4 key presses for me to hide these floating meeting controls here. Thanks, Zoom. All right. So next, one of the other subcomponents here is this to-do list items. So we'll probably do the simplest thing here. And I think what we're going to do is just work toward rendering some list of text items that are passed to it. And then we'll probably stop there and then start to stitch things together. All right. So here we have our it should mount test. And ideally, what I have these placeholders here because I think there's going to be a point where it makes sense to actually extract out another component. Not really confident in how to do that just yet. I found a neat little thing to be able to do it, but I haven't practiced it very much, so I'm not gonna put you guys through that. Okay, so here in our component, we want to render a helpful message when no items are passed in. Okay. And let's see, we want to render our to-do list items. I'm going to steal that. And I think I want to just find some text out here of some sort. So here we're going to do something a little bit different. Const, we'll call it message for now, equals screen, find by text. So actually, just like a user, we're just going to look for some text on the screen here, appearing anywhere, right? And what might be a good helpful message saying I don't have to-do items? Something like there are no items in your list. Let's see if we can just work on something like that. This is yelling at me for some reason.
Find by text is an async method. You can just say
Oh,
get
fine.
by. Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem.
Get by text. I'm so happy that we've got some other people who know React better than I do on here tonight. This is a very, very helpful. All right. And so our expectation here is that I think message is in the document. The document. All right. This is kind of a setup type thing, so I'm going to move that up a line. I got rid of my X. It's failing. Is it failing for the right reason? Yep. Okay. So here, not there, actually. I want to do this over here. To-do list items. I think maybe it makes sense to just shovel another little div in here. And we'll put that message in there. The simplest thing we could possibly do is just pop that in there. See if that works. Now, at some point, we're probably going to want to hide that message. So we'll handle any sorts of IDs or anything we need in here to make that happen when that time comes. All right. Okay, so we've got a passing test there. Now, here, if I get a set of items from the parent, I just want to render those items in a list. All right, list of some sort. Okay. Let's pop out our X here. I'm going to do something very similar. Well, let's see how similar this gets. I feel like I'm going to need to look for that message thing too. And that should not be in the document probably. Yeah, let's pull that down. Okay. I'm going to pop this in here because I'm actually going to put two assertions in here.
You sure you want two assertions in the same, two expects in the same test as opposed to two different tests?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of.
That's usually counterindicated, but you may have a good reason for it, but you should explain what your good reason is.
Let me see. I could write two different tests for this, right? Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Because otherwise something could, you know, something could fail, and it really could fail in two ways, but you'd only see one of them because the first expect is the one that would get triggered.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, isn't this a combo test though, Camille? Because in the first one, so 15 through 20, you would want to see there are no items in your list, and you would not just want to see a to-do list item. Whereas in this one, you want to see the to-do list item, but not there are no items in your list. Is that you're muted, Camille? You're muted.
You're right. Yes, but I think it still calls for two tests. Because, okay, now I'm not as familiar with Jest as I am with JUnit or NUnit or RSpec or several other test tools. But I assume that within the test, they all tend to work much the same way. And that is that the code is actually rendered sequentially. within a single test, right? Okay, unlike the tests, which should be run randomly for most environments.
Right.
Now, given that, if you have more than one expect, and you want both conditions to be, you know, you want to validate both conditions, or you know, asserts, or whatever you want to call them, and it fails on the first one, but could fail on the second one, you will never know that it could fail on the second one. And so you'll be hiding it. So yeah, you'll see some duplication in your test, because all of that basic test setup that you're getting together, and then your action is going to be the same. The expect is the only thing that's going to be different. But that way you catch both circumstances.
Dana had an alternate view.
What was that?
Jest is really slow, so put lots of expects into a test so you don't have to render so many times.
I see. So it is different when you're doing you know, back end testing, which is most of what I do.
No, I would generally agree with you. There's I also try to keep, you know, one assert per test.
Hey, Scott,
Yep.
can you explain in relation to what Camille and Brian are talking about, maybe with this catching these? When I see that expect to at the end of your test there.
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten to the expectation just yet. So let me finish that up right here. So one of the things I'd expect is that the first item rendered, one, that, two, and I want the value, or the HTML text, is it, or inner text? Rendered item one. Sorry, I'm getting myself a little messed up here.
It's all right.
There it is, inner text. Give it to me. Oh,
Not allowed.
somebody's in the waiting room.
I got him.
Okay.
Yeah, don't worry about those. I'll grab. I'm the bouncer.
That inner HTML, and I want this to be, and then I'm just gonna copy the value down like this, just to make sure I'm not getting it from the same place. Okay. All right. So what I'm trying to do with this test, right, is I'm passing in this list of items. Somehow I'm going to render these on screen. And just like a user looking at screen, I want to see that item appear somewhere, right? So I'm not specifying how I'm rendering them. I'm just going to say, you know, once I pass these in, I expect to see those items on screen. And, you know, what I'd like to do here is probably just make sure I get all three items. And so I think I'm actually going to go rendered item 1, 2, and 3 and expectation on all three of those. So I'm actually going to have 3 asserts in here. So one of the things I do use multiple asserts sometimes, but I generally like to use the rule that the assert should be asserting the same thing, same type of thing, right? So I don't want to have a bunch of different types of asserts in here, but I might want to run through 3 examples, for example. Like if I'm testing out a function, I might want to test out 3 different values I'm passing to the function that should have the same result, right? And so I'll do that rather than go through the extra boilerplate of creating parameterized tests, for example. It seems to be quite readable, right, in that respect, and doesn't really detract too much from the test. So in that case, that's basically what I'm going to do here. Come on out of there. So I'm going to use a little copy pasta here. And we're going to change these to 1 and 2. And then down here, I'm going to expect those other 3 items. And then we'll deal with the other issue of the temporary message we have up there. So I'm going to pull down, take out the trash. But I also hope they're rendered in order. And clean the bathrooms.
Maybe just to close the loop on the little subtopic with Camille and Brian. This is, in my opinion, a great example of just being clear about things instead of putting inner loops and things and trying to hide your tests inside of a bunch of bits. So it's very explicit testing. I like that. So I like seeing that.
Here, my test is failing for the right reason. It can't find the first item, so it's going to short circuit and bail out on us here. So I think what I need to do here is I'm trying to think that I don't think it works the same as the Angular thing there. So I've got to be a little more careful here. I like having like the NG4 type thing for Angular where I can kind of render a list here. But I think I'll go with divs again. And I think, oh, first of all, I need to pass in the information. Let's make the information available to me. So we called it items out there. So let's call it items in here. That means I'm actually going to have to change this test around a little bit too, right? Or this component a little bit. Got to do this. Darn it, this thing keeps popping up on me. Hide the floating meeting. I'm going to peek back here to make sure I get the syntax right. Oh, it's return. Yeah. Render didn't make sense. That's in render is what I use in class component. Return. And then I think somebody said I can highlight these and just kind of lift them up. Is it Alt? All right. Okay. Just double check my tests over here, see if I'm still failing for what I expect it to be. Looks good. All right. So here, I think I can do one of these. And then I believe I can map that. You do like an items.map. You need to create a function in here, right? Pass in an item. And then I want to render a div here, I think. Items.map. Oops. Oops. This is tricky syntax for me, but I think I can just pop in my item in here like this. Is that going to do it?
Run the test and find out.
Yeah, let's look at the tests here to see what happened. Is that the That's a wrong test passing. Oh, no, 2 failed tests now. Okay. Of undefined reading map. Okay. All right. I might need some help from some folks to figure out how to resolve this one.
That means items is not an array because map is an array method, correct?
Yeah, so why isn't
Yeah.
items an array?
Looked like
Yeah.
it, right?
I think
Definitely.
it's a failing from the previous test that it is not an array. Maybe set a default value like equal to empty array so that the previous test will not give us the error that
Ah.
item is undefined.
Gotcha. Okay. I think it's highlighted right now. That's nice. Oh,
Items colon and then empty array. Or
Oh,
equal
default.
to. I think it's
You're-
equal to.
equal.
I just.
You just never know, honestly, with some of these, right? Okay.
Nice.
I think that worked. Excellent.
So you're setting up the
Wonderful.
default of an empty array. Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Okay.
Good call.
All right. And that looks good. So we have 4 multiple divs showing actually on screen here. So I think we're going to add a test here that basically says it should hide that message, right?
So that was Camille's point to separate out this next test into a
Mhm.
or this next expect into a separate test. Got it. Okay.
And here we're going to change this text up here a little bit. It should not render. It's a kind of weird way of saying it, but okay. So here we'll kind of take some of these same things here. I think oops. Command Z is my friend. What did I do there? Okay, I'm good there. All right. Render to-do list items. Okay. And here I want to search for not these guys, but I want to search for this message. Actually, I'm going to take all 3 of those lines. Tap, bring them down here. And here I don't want these to be in the document. Oops.
It might be dot not to be in if that doesn't work.
Okay. Dot. Oops. Let's see.
Oh,
It's an M.
you would type dot not.
Okay.
So try NOT right there. Yeah, dot.
There it is. Okay.
And then your positive one dot. Oh, I don't know if you. Oh yeah, you have to have the paren. Okay.
Did I get
Or maybe
that?
you don't want the parens there.
Not is not a function, it's a property.
Yeah.
So this is we need to remove. Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
Is that it there?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's failing to not to contain an element, found a div. Okay, good. All right. So let's see here. Need some sort of a conditional around this, right? Or can I do like a hidden type thing in here?
So in Angular, you do the ngIf, but here do you just do JavaScript ifs and then you just return either the to-do item list or
Yeah.
else the no items message?
Yeah. So I think here, then I'm going to do something like this, right? If oops, equals 0. If items that length equals 0. Let me get this
How many
right.
equals do you want there? That looks like Java, not like JavaScript. You want 3 equals maybe?
3 doesn't hurt.
It'll give you type and value of call. Yeah, good call.
I'm getting my head all wrapped around like JSP like syntax right now.
Right, right. That's a little tricky.
Yeah, yeah. Items that length equals 0. Then I want to render this thing, right? Doesn't like this up here. I definitely want to pull this up. I still have to learn that little trick, I think. Now I got syntactic problems here. I need
Is
these,
part of that your closing div
something
issue?
like that.
We can actually use shorthand for this. Like we can just
Oh,
say
yeah?
return and items dot length directly without saying if. And
Oh,
then
gotcha.
yeah, question mark and that thing, yeah. Equal to 0 is fine. We can just remove the if and the parentheses and the curly braces, entire thing, and
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Remove these braces.
Yeah, or you can just get rid of this and then just help you out
Wait.
there.
Why are we using
Yeah,
it?
even the
why-
if statement. Also the if statement, line number 8. You can
Okay.
just get if condition like
Just
this.
take
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah, just get rid of this. And then we have to introduce a set of parentheses like after return that will check. We need to check a condition. So after the this thing, yeah, the parentheses, you just type directly items dot length equal to 0, like 3 equals to 0 question mark, and then without if.
You're saying
Directly.
above if,
Yeah.
right up in here.
If you want to write if, yeah, it should be above the return statement. Yeah.
Oh, and
That's
then I
also,
might need two return statements here.
yeah, we can have
Yeah.
2 return. That's
Okay.
cool.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways.
And then I can just use items that length, right?
Which is truthy, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, check chat. She dropped the syntax in chat,
Oh, did she?
or somebody did.
I did that. So what you can do is on line 13, you get it's up to you if you want to return on the
I got you. Okay.
yeah.
That one right there, right? I got you. We're using the conditional instead of. I see where you're at now. Okay.
It would be on
Actually,
line 9. Of-
line in front of line 9.
Yeah.
Because I want this outer div, right?
So we will be using question mark, or we can use and. And what that and will do is check the first right part of our condition. And if that's true, then it will return our div. If that's false, it won't return our div. So it's a syntactic sugar we can use on the React.
Okay. All right. Now I think I'm grokking it now, I think. Okay. That length. Okay. So I'm going to get two conditions. I'm either going to do one thing or which if there are items that length, I want to do items that map to this, right? Oh boy, this is items dot length. When that's truthy, that means I have an array. Otherwise, I want my other div here. Boy, this is getting hairy. I'm glad I have some tests.
One thing I like to do with ternary is put the question mark and its condition, I mean, in its result on the next line, and then the colon and its result on that third line. So it looks like an if then else. So that,
Gotcha.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, because I agree with you, it's hairy. And I like to
Okay.
de-hairy-ize it.
All right. I'm still failing, but I feel better about how that looks. A little wackiness to get there. What are we failing on?
I don't think you want that items.length on 8 anymore now that you're using the embedded ternary, right?
Oh, this one up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great call. Yep. Thank you.
And is it still failing?
Looks like it's still failing. What are we failing on this time? Render message screen I get by text. Which test is failing? Should not render a helpful message. Let's see what we got here. Looking at this, it looks okay.
Another trick you can do is to put items.length, make sure you're rendering that all the time so you can check its value, you know, a way to debug it. Just a temporary thing, right?
Yeah. I think I see what the problem is here now. So what my test is failing now because it can't find message. It can't find the text, which is interesting, right?
Actually, we need to say items.length should be greater than 0. So then this will work better, maybe. Yeah.
Right. It was reversed logic. Good catch.
You're saying this here?
Yes.
Yeah, it's still going to fail though, only because my production code is working to hide that div. So now what's failing is in my test when I go search for the screen.get by text, that's failing.
Wait, is it still
It's not-
failing on the same test?
Yeah.
Could you check just in case?
See here the not to be in document. So this is the right test, but now it's failing up here where I'm trying to get to that div. So I've kind of coded myself into a broken test.
Oh, you're saying it couldn't find the text, and so it's failing on 37 because it couldn't find that text?
It's failing on 37 now instead of the assertion because we've successfully removed the div from the DOM. So that is an interesting thing, but we have our other tests
You removed
passing.
it instead of hiding it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
If you'd hidden it, it could have seen it.
that's probably true.
Great point.
So maybe your expect needs to be a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, I'm still not going to get.
Maybe
he's
we
saying
can
he's,
check. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting. Maybe
Oh,
we
go
can
Yeah, go
for it.
check
ahead.
message to expect message dot to be falsy rather than not to be in the document. We can check expect message to be falsy.
Yeah.
that's a great thought. I'm just a little confused because I thought you said it was failing on 37 and we still have to deal with that issue.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to fix this test here.
Right,
But I
right.
think maybe something like this might help. No?
Oh, sorry, I'm really sorry. I should have pointed this out. We have to
Mhm.
use query by text rather than get by text, because if we use get by text, we must be sure that this text exists. If not, then we can use query, because that will give us null value if this text doesn't exist.
There we go. That fixed it. Excellent. Thank you.
Wow, nice, very nice.
So you can get that.
No
That
problem.
tends, in my experience so far with this, with React testing, these queries make all the difference, or what I use for the query seems to make all the difference. And where I typically kind of get hung up on a test that I can't get to do what I want, or to fail the way I want, it's usually based on the type of query that I select. So totally appreciate having someone on the phone that knows what to select there. All right. Let's see. So I think maybe we have enough in this component to do some more stitching. What's our time look like? We're at 9:30. Okay.
Yep, we're at 9:30 right now.
All right. So we should have a little bit of time here to kind of pull these two things together and maybe do some wiring. All right. So I'm going to move on to the to-do list test itself. Some of these are going to be fairly simple. It should have a title, right? So we're going to render it. To-do list, and we're going to look for text. Equals screen dot, let's say get. We expect this to be there all the time, so I'm going to use the information I was just given. Get by text. That means I expect it to be there. And we'll give it a really crazy name of to do list. And I'm going to make that a lowercase o, do list. And then I'm going to expect this to be in the document. Expect title to oh, it's down here. All right, document. Oops. I know I don't need those semicolons anymore, but force of habit, you know, to-do list.
You shouldn't rely though on ASI, automatic semicolon insertion, because there actually are a couple scenarios where you can get burnt. So it's always just best to keep them.
Just
is what I've heard.
Oh, keep the semicolons. Like, interesting. All right, here we go. Okay, so this one right here, I think what we're just going to do is take some of this text here, make sure I'm in the right component this time. Let's make it an H1. Save me a couple of keystrokes. Delete that. To dash do list. Okay, hopefully that passes. Looks good there. All right. Next test.
So you weren't using title in the HTML sense, right? Of the title element?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. I'm just thinking of on the screen itself, but not necessarily in the browser title.
Thanks.
If I knew how to do it, I might, but
Because
don't
I
think
saw
know
it
how
to,
do that.
I saw it to be in title or something like that. So then you could create a title element, I'm guessing, but.
Well, look, I kind of, I see. Yeah. Maybe that's what the spirit of these two tests were, but I think I either combined it or I ignored the other one. So we will, in the interest of time, just skip that one altogether. I think we have a title on here now. Okay, so we want it to actually render and contain a to-do list entry component. So we're going to do render to-do list. And I want to search for, oops, sorry, const. Entry. And maybe I'll just look at, rename that as component equals screen. This time I'm going to use test ID. I think that's it right there, because it was generated with a test ID. And I'm going to expect, oops, not that. To be in the document. Okay. Should fail for that, because it can't find that test ID.
We still have X.
Yeah,
in the
you need to
test.
get rid of the X. Front of test.
Ah, thank you.
Failing for some other reason.
Yeah, there's another test that suddenly started failing, and I think I know why. I don't know why it failed at that moment, but
Now it's passing.
yeah, that's a strange one. But I know I typically am supposed to put an index in those things that have a list.
So
All right.
technically though, right now, 22 through 27 is actually testing for a div, because there's a div or is this called the to-do list component? Is that React syntax for to-do list?
Oh, I'm
component?
sorry. No, let me hide this thing here again. Meeting controls. All right. I grabbed the wrong thing here. I actually want this item here. I want to test for that to-do list entry.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so it's using data test ID as a way to mark these components right now.
Right.
And so that's the one that I actually needed to, did that not take? There we go. Now that should fail for the right reason. Okay, cannot get that to-do list entry. And I fix this, not by doing that. What's going on here? I don't know why that white bar is showing up all of a sudden.
Do you have to do a command tab or something? Don't know, Mac as well.
There, it disappeared. Okay, now my thing is in the way again. Hide controls, okay. To-do list, all right. Now I need to add my component here. Entry. do anything with that just yet. A few items failing here.
So you don't have anything with a test ID of to-do list entry right now, right?
I should, this one right here. Ah, okay, that's where I made my mistake. I pasted in the wrong place the other when I had that. That should pass it. Okay, yeah. I accidentally changed that test ID somehow.
Not a
in my
problem.
Confusion there.
We
All
all
right.
do it.
Makes it harder when you have to battle yourself for these things. All right, so we're going to do something very similar here with this one. I'm going to try to get my cut and paste right on this one. I'm just going to grab it from here and hope that's right. Okay. That's failing because I couldn't find it. That's what we expect. Let's go back here. And I'm going to add to-do list items. Ah, my import is missing. Okay.
So in Angular, you can do a control dot, and then it'll give you the option to import. And I was kind of wondering if React had the same.
You know, it's interesting because it automatically did the import for the first one. And maybe, yeah, maybe because I was doing a cut and paste instead of typing it out, it couldn't grok that for some reason. Yeah. So that time it picked it up. So we have it there. We're in good shape here, I think, with those two tests.
It should have known what you were thinking, what you meant.
Right. Okay. Okay, should render items and to-do list items when state is updated. And I think I had figured out in my kata the other day that this is a test that we don't need. We're going to get it all done in this one test here. This is the one that's going to force us to wire it up. Okay. Yeah, I don't like the text in there, but we'll get started anyway. Okay. So here we're going to do some stuff here. And we're going to invoke a couple of events here. Render to-do list. Now this is going to do a deep render. So what I'm now going to look for is my submit button and my text entry. So what I'm going to do here, just to briefly explain, I'm going to enter text into my field that now should exist somewhere. I'm going to hit the submit button, and then I'm going to look for that text to appear in the list.
Cool.
So I'm really just going to add one item through this, and then that's going to cause me to do a little bit of state within this component and pass that around, create a callback function and handle that. All right. So it'll take a little while to implement this, but I'm going to go back out here. I'm going to steal a couple of things from to-do list entry. Oh, okay. I want to grab these two items here, these things. So I know I'm going to need them. don't know why you put those all the way over there, but take that. Okay, what I want to do is user event type. We'll try mow the lawn again. Never seems to get done. And then we're gonna click the button. And that is submit button. I think that's all I need to do on that. Is that right? We'll go back over here just to make sure I've done that right. Oh, yeah, that's what I'm missing. I thought one of them had 2 arguments. Mow the lawn. All right. And then I'm going to do a const to do item. Screen dot. Get by text. And we're just going to say mow the lawn. Oops. Spell it the same way. I expect I might run into async problems here, but we'll deal with those as we go along. And then here oops. To be in the document. What's going on here? Little lag in my monitor here, or in my machine here. All right. Let's see if we could fail here. Okay, I think it's failing for the right reasons. So we've executed these 2 events and that text is not on screen. Okay. That's the basics of that test. And I may have to do something async with this, but it may just actually work. So we'll give it a shot. Okay. Here I've got to change this component around a bit. Let's just try this. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I've got to add some state to this to-do list component to kind of manage the list for us on behalf of the others. That's Alt. Okay. So I'm going to add a use state in here, const. Bracket. Okay. To do items set use state hook. I think it added the hook for me there. I'm going to set that to an empty list. Oops, that's not a list. There we go. All right. Then I need to pass those into to-do list items. I think we used items. Yeah. There we go. To do. something kicked in on my machine, maybe a backup. All right, to-do list items. All right, that should keep that guy up to date. And then I need a callback here. Add item. Get that right. I don't think I need the const thing there, do I?
We can use const add item equal to, then you can write const space add item,
Okay.
add equal to, and then the arrow after
Equals
parenthesis arrow. Yeah.
functional, that notation, right? Equals that. And so when I get a message for add item, I should expect a new item to come through, right? So what I want to do is not set state, but to do items equal to, ooh, and here's something I'm going to need a little help with. I want to add that to the array, right?
So we can have a like new array, like above the set to do items, we can just do like the new array or new items or something.
Right.
Well, you can do dot push if you have an existing array, right?
Spread, yeah. We can use the spread item, like spread operator, like above this, but it's safe.
Spread's the thing I think I need, right?
So what we can do
But-
is we have like
Oh,
square
right.
brace, and we can spread the to do items and then comma and then add a new item there itself, right?
What's the spread operator?
Dot, dot, dot. Isn't it?
Oop, that didn't
Uh,
work.
That appears before the to do item, so we have to use this
Right.
square parenthesis. Before the 3 dots, we have to use the square parenthesis also, because it's an
Okay.
array, right? So yeah,
Oh,
and then second square parenthesis will come like in the end.
After that, and then a comma here,
got it.
comma new item.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So the spread flattens the to-do items array, and then you're adding the new item on, and now you're putting it all back together into an array.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're doing a break cat, basically. Yeah.
You're doing a what?
You're concatenating the array. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Nice.
Okay. And then here, I think I need my on new item equals add item, and we'll pray for synchronicity or asynchronicity. All right. Well, the test passed. Okay, now it feels like this is the moment of truth. Actually try to run this thing in a browser. npm start. Let's see. Hopefully it'll open off screen first so I can. Let's see here. Oh, forgot a test. Okay.
There's
all
an
right.
extra Q on line 17.
Oh, yeah.
There's a, where do you see that?
An extra Q line
Oh, yeah.
17. Mhm.
Well, that's useless, isn't it? Okay. All right. Okay. So just let me show you what I have here. Bring a browser over. I forgot to add our to-do list component to the app, so it renders the right thing here. So I got one more test right. And that is in app.test.js. This one, it should render a to-do list. This test is no longer needed once I do this. So I'll just grab this, do this. I'm going to remove this. And then I'm going to search for my component. Const component equals screen.get by test ID. And it's called to-do list. And then I just want to expect that this is going to be in my document. Component to be in the document. There we go. Go back to, let's quit this. Get back to my test here, make sure that's failing. Of course it is. When I make this change, the other one should fail. Let me see here. Let's grab the app.js. It's got all this garbage in it. So we'll just replace all this with our to-do list component. There it is. To-do list. And that should pass the one test, should now fail the other one for rendering the React link. That is no longer a valid test. So we're going to delete it with impunity. All our tests are passing now. Let's quit this. Let's go back to npm start.
So you deleted that. You deleted that learn React test, but you could switch it to a negative test and say you should not now see the learn React, right?
Oh, true. Yeah.
That'd be another possibility.
Did I do this with too much confidence here? It's still clocking. It's thinking about it.
You could have F12 to see if there's an error in the developer tools, right? In the console.
Yeah. Oh, there it goes. Ah, all right. There are no items in your to-do list. Let's try to repeat the test. Oops. Add item, mobile on. Oh, beautiful.
Nice.
Few things we could improve in that probably, right? Look, the button is disabled like we expect. Do the dishes. Add item. And probably the most important one is drink a beer. Because usually I have a couple of beers during these things, but I didn't have time to drink 2 beers for this
Can
one.
I suggest that bourbon is diet alcohol?
Yeah. All right. Well, cool. That's all
really
I got
nice.
for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you
learned a
so much.
lot.
Awesome.
Very cool.
In the interest of time, I didn't do a commit after every test like I might normally do, but I'll commit all this up to my repo. Maybe I'll even have Joel fork it for you guys, and then we'll have all that so people can refer back to this, hopefully use it wisely, and maybe even do a little better than I did on it. But good stuff. I like it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think it kind of followed the test pyramid a little bit too. There's a lot more of the component level testing and really just a few tests as we got toward the app level to stitch it all together. And then the to-do list was primarily a functional test for the most part of spinning it all together.
Very nicely done.
Thank you.
So it's going to be minimum viable continuous delivery, which is a community project to help people along the path to get started so that they don't hurt themselves by aiming for the wrong goals.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
Thank you, but I need to run.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Excellent. Have a good night. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I'll hang around and answer questions if anybody has any. Otherwise, I'll get back